But I don't think ultimate reality is looking around at trees. You never become a tree doctor just by looking at trees.
So based purely on his existentialism, or somebody taking that approach, they would maybe never have the confidence or inclination to be like an exotic physicist extrapolating subatomic particles because they can't experience them.
Now, all this is coming to pass. They don't have that question. But you see, this feeling business justifies, and he was writing, you know that, I'm playing games with you, Chris, but what context was he writing in?
Well, he was in the midst of the Newtonian world machine, and he's in Northern Europe in Denmark.
And what religiously?
Well, he was probably Lutheran.
Well, and he didn't have to raise the question. He was already in a religious context.
Right.
He was just trying to make sense of it.
Right, yeah.
You don't come into Lutheranism or anything else by his methodology.
Right. He was experiencing, the cognitive dissonance of his age, wanting to hang on to his faith because he's a Christian, and yet he's trying to explain and protect.
This is it. You just go home, you got A+.
Okay.
But that's exactly, he wanted to save, and that's what happens with neo-orthodoxy, using Kierkegaard, translating the very complex material in the 20s and 30s of the 20th century. But for half a century, they paid no attention to Kierkegaard. But it looked like a way out. You could be a believer and not deal with anything.
Right, because it just makes your head spin. But you think, okay, but I experience a tree, I experience Christian fellowship and a sense of belonging in church. I experience.
That's what I come for. I come for donuts and Christian experience. But a headache is experienced too.
Yes.
No, but you see these things coming into the culture out of what seems to most people, I'm sorry, just academic discussion. If that's all they are, you could forget them.
Right.
But in this existentialism is saying the only thing that exists is existence. Well, that means what? About creation, about the creator. Exist in what sense? What's the origin of existence? What is the origin of finite existence?
It's not only the idea of the only thing that exists is what exists, but the only thing that exists is what I experience existentially existing.
That's all you got.
Yeah.
See, once you cut loose from the other questions, he said Gefühl.
Yeah.
Schleiermacher said that, but Schleiermacher was just interpreting it to the Germans, Kierkegaardianism.
It kind of like people saying, I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. How many of these people have had him over for dinner, eaten pizza with him?
How many do you know?
I don't know.
Well, what do you mean?
What do you mean by is that just religious gobbledygook, or does that actually mean something?
No, because he lives in my heart.
Right.
See, try not to be overly mean.
No,
I never did sing that song. I just said, what on earth can this mean? The only way you know Jesus is how he's in your heart. I said, I'll let it go, but I can't imagine you singing that. If that's the only place you know Jesus, he is not the biblical Christ. So he must be some kind of Gnostic guru. The Bible doesn't talk like that.
And it doesn't talk about personal relationships with somebody.
It does not, because I don't know what that would mean.
Right.
But it does talk about fellowship. Right. But fellowship is either imposed or by conviction.
Or loving your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
And not loving your neighbor's wife like your own. Things like that. Yeah.
Those are convictions.
Right.
But anyway, this whole thing, see, they gradually come, and it looks like they're trying to defend the faith. But see, the faith, now what, just pragmatically, what would be the significance of that radical Calvinism? Now, they deny it.
Right.
It'd be a total repudiation of missions and evangelism.
Right, because there'd be no point to it. You're either elected to hell or to heaven.
Because if you're not elected, all the event, or you could cop out and say, God may use this. Well, that's self-justifying, see?
Right.
But that's what they say. Yeah. If there's nothing you can do, apologetics is out, defending the integrity of the biblical text, Greek text. Who cares?
I mean, it certainly seems that way. It seems to make no logical sense then.
It doesn't. But see, all these influences influence churches that say, what's the consequences of annihilating the text of the Hebrew Bible or the Greek New Testament?
Right.
Doesn't make any difference whether it's accurate or not.
Yeah, because I still got to enjoy finger foods on Sunday night.
All right, if I still experience Jesus in my heart, I don't need him in this apologetics class. Have you had access to De Souza's recent book on the Christianity?
So, what's so great about Christianity or something? Yeah, I've seen it, but I've not.
Well, she's one of the brilliant evangelical Indian.
Okay.
And it's written for Joe Blow. It's not an academic book at all. But I'll show you that.
Okay.
But what he's doing is going through. See, he's not a Calvinist. Oh no, he's not a Calvinist. Because you can't make sense out of any effort to make sense out of it. Because you're trying to overcome God. God will deal with it the way he wants to deal with it. So nothing, like Paul at Mars Hill, there's something wrong with that man. He's not a real Christian. Because he seemed to be just the opposite.
He seemed to assume that he could make a case and try to persuade them.
Now, it's true, I think only three converts. Well, that's three more than were there when he came.
Apparently one of them was the president of their philosophers club.
Of Phi Beta Kappa or something, come lousy. But see, I don't believe everyone in any social structure has the same significance. I'm sorry. Right. I don't believe that. Some carry weight, some carry only weight on their bodies.
Right. God loves them all, but some are more, some are more influential.
But, no, and to deny that is to deny the reality. Right. Again, you're correct. I don't believe they're more saved.
Sure.
Because they can do that. But there are people that need that, not placebo, right, but need encouragement. Because Satan never comes, historically, biblically, with Christ, he never comes unless we're trying. He never comes to the so-called atheist. He's already there. He only comes to the person claiming to be Christian. He only comes to intercept someone that's trying to
make a difference.
Make a difference. Yeah, Satan he doesn't need to bother most people or most churches. They're already under his control. Huh?
Other than that, they're highly effective.
All right. But see that, let's keep going here.
All right, so now we get to Marx, Karl Marx.
Now you see that? Now, two things. Now, I don't mean to play games with my brilliant friend. Who was Karl Marx?
Well, he's one of him and Engel were the father, I guess, of communism, or they canonized it in the manifesto.
No question about that. You get a.
All right.
But he's a German, educated in England.
Okay. He's a child of his times, the Newtonian world machine.
Now, he's a child of his time, but you see that? He was educated in English education that raised all these questions up here. So he was going to he's going to redefine what this human alienation is. It's no longer sin, alienation, God.
Right. It's alienation from each other.
Human alienation
exploitation
is caused by capitalistic democracy.
Right.
And supply and demand, by separating people with some haves and some have-nots. That's what separates them. So it's a complete, not merely is it not technically not correct, but he got a redefinition, and we're headed right for Freud. Redefinition of the human condition. It's no longer sin against God, but it's human alienation over economic political theory. So that's the most radical thing. That's why Marx is probably the singly most influential person, even to this day, even though he died in China. Yes and no. He hasn't really died. He just technically passed away.
Yeah, he lives through, obviously, the communist regimes
Latin America
and liberation theology.
No, yes. I don't mean no. I mean yes. No. Yes. No, that's correct. Influence. See, and another practical thing, then when Freud wrote about the most powerful forces, he mentioned Copernicus, Newton himself, but he never mentioned Marx. But in that very century, Marx became the most influential force in his world. But he never mentioned him in his lectures on psychoanalysis.
Maybe that was an intentional oversight?
Well, I can't, whether it's a Freudian slip or whatever. But anyway, it was a misreading of reality, because it's not like three centuries later, here comes Marx.
Right.
In that very world that he said the greatest minds were these three, never even mentioned a man that had control over almost, not quite half of the world. Well, how much control do you need to get in the list?
No.
They don't like it at all, but I think Obama has read Marx's literature. I don't have any doubt about that.
Marx, certainly seems to be alive and well in Washington.
Well, I have no, they found, oh my goodness, they have a cardiac arrest over mentioning that. But if they would just read Marx's great writings, it's like Hitler's Mein Kampf, or the Dry Reich, the Third Empire, or my battle. He was after the Third Empire, the Roman Empire, and he's the third one. Well, who read it? The people that were influenced by that force, and they almost did it.
Yeah.
He was intercepted, not because he was defective, but because I think in the providence of God, that can't go on. Even God, he doesn't withdraw, he's not withdrawing, but it's over freedom and sovereignty. God's free, or he's not, if he's not sovereign. Man's free to make the decision, but not to determine the consequences. When he gets to the consequence, that's what he did to all the history of the Old Testament, the church and the New Testament. He doesn't just come every day and straighten out the church and get this Corinthian church all straightened out, but a little bit at a time. But there's not one church mentioned in the New Testament still in existence. Not one church in the book of Revelation, because people are hot on that today. Not one of those churches are still in existence. But the church is.
Yeah, not individual congregations.
Well, what happened to them? Well, they died.
Yeah.
All over these influences. Eventually, to come, they'll either deal with these influences or pass away under these influences. Huh?
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah. And so then we go from Marx to then Nietzsche's claim that all interpretation is misinterpretation. He's the father of the death of God influence in the past.
Now, is that influential? Nietzsche says that, and who was Nietzsche? Friedrich?
It was a German.
You betcha.
Yeah.
I suppose. I don't know that. I don't see his record. But anyway, his position, this goes right smack dab to the death of God. All interpretation is it goes right to the hermeneutical revolution.
Right. And God being dead as an influence.
Well, if all interpretation is misinterpretation, what would you think I would ask him if I could be with him?
You would ask him, Karl, how am I supposed to understand what you're writing and saying if I'm probably going to misinterpret it anyway?
If it's necessary, I'm not intentionally, all interpretation, then your interpretation is the same.